Welcome to the Topics in Technology program. In this edition, we'll hear about the nuts and bolts of large language models and machine learning in a fintech. We're joined in this edition by Winnie Yeung. Winnie graduated from MID in 2015, majoring in history with minors in math and Arabic. She's currently a senior machine learning engineer at Block, formerly Square, where she focuses on developing large language model components for Square Messages, a service designed to help small businesses manage buyer communications more efficiently. Prior to joining Block, she held analytic roles with Visa and Fidelity Investments. In addition to Middlebury, Winnie earned a master's degree in analytics from Georgia Tech in Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome, Winnie. Winnie, why don't we begin with you telling us what you do at Block?
Yeah, so like you said, I'm a senior machine learning engineer, and the services that I worked on is called Square Messages that helped sellers to handle their communications more efficiently with buyers. And as a machine learning engineer, I handle the end-to-end machine learning life cycle. So what does it entail? So it starts with it can be starting with model training or model fine tuning, and then after that you might have to collect data or create data you need for training the model, and then doing the model evaluation. And after the model looks good, then you start thinking about deploying the model into servers so that it can run 24/7 to serve predictions. And then so you will write the logic to within the code base to serve that particular model and package the entire the entire server into a Docker container to deploy it into production. And so this is if there are new models, then I'm responsible for end-to-end development lifecycle. And then another component is that currently there are so many models running in production. So I'm also on call for the current application that are running 24/7. And this kind of on-call shifts is I think it happens every 2 weeks for every 6 weeks. So if anything breaks during my shift, then I need to go inspect it and then fix it. So that's kind of where the engineering component comes in. You also do some sort of maintenance and troubleshooting work.
Okay. So why don't we, if you can, why don't you give us a kind of a simple example when you talk about models, modeling what, and then just kind of take us through that example from the beginning to end that you've just described.
Yeah, so I've currently, I recently, in the last quarter, I worked on a prediction model that is to predict what kind of sellers can reply to the buyers. So, and then it was for example, a buyer would say, "Thank you for your service," and then the prediction model should learn to suggest to the seller to say, "Thank you so much. That's very nice words," for as an example. So what we did was to collect the training data. We looked into the past conversations between buyers and sellers and collect these dialogue pairs, and then we take a state of the art language model, and then we put in this training data given the context to the model to fine tune it, and then we look at its out of sample prediction results. And once it looks really good, then we integrate it as part of our production system so that, for example, in the conversation, if an actual seller say, "Thank you for your service," then in the actual Square Messages UI, we will serve some prediction. For example, maybe you would want to say "Thank you for your service" as a reply, and then the merchant can just click on the suggestion and serve it instead of like handwriting their own reply. So that saved them huge amount of time to custom uh, custom made each of the reply. Yeah.
Now, just to help me a little bit in terms of the actual customers of Block. What sort of businesses would they be in?
Are small, medium merchants, so they're across different sectors. So they can be in like the beauty industry or the food and beverages industry. These are like the two main sectors that we serve. Yeah.
Okay. And so there would be retail customers that they're dealing
Yeah.
with. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And now I'm assuming that at some point, if not currently, this is going to extend into chatbots as well as part of this stream.
Yeah, so this is actually I like to explain to people what machine learning as square messages do. I sometimes describe it as a chatbot. So we have some another projects that I'm currently working on. It is to migrate some of our chatbot templated workflow using a large language model. You can think of it as like OpenAI GPT or Claude. So like previously we would have, if someone say reschedule, then it would like kick off our templated reply and say, oh, you want to reschedule, please confirm. And then or if you want to book a new appointment, then we will say there are 5 available options, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Please reply 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. But it's not very natural. It doesn't seem like a smooth conversation. And now we are hoping to migrate it into the LLM-centric design, where we pass in all this information and all this context to a large language model, and it can reply with more natural, like it can understand the nuances of the buyer messages better, and it also gives higher quality replies in the and replace all this templated workflow.
Okay. So given all of the very rapid development we seem to be hearing about uh,
Mm-hmm.
in the machine learning space, the AI space, the agent space, um, give us a sense of how things have changed just as long as you've been involved in the field to today, and then what you see kind of as the next set of evolution coming in the not too distant future.
Yeah. So like I said, like traditionally, or even like 3 or 4 years back, like machine learning involves like training or fine tuning your own model for a specific purpose. And nowadays, actually there are fewer and fewer cases where you would need to fine tune or training your own model, and then you kind of just outservice it to like a third party API that hosts like super large model like ChatGPT or like Anthropic Claude, and you just need to like the more workflow you're doing is thinking about how to carry out like how to build an agent that help you to carry out these tasks working with a third party large language model instead of like uh, you you yourself hosting your own models and figure out all these workflows on your own. Yeah.
So I imagine in the not too distant future, all of our respective agents are going to be talking to each other, and we're not going to be involved.
Yeah, actually, I think so. Like maybe like you want to, if you want to reschedule an appointment, you wouldn't be making the call yourself. You can just like tell your own personal agent, call it for me, and then it dials to the the appointment agents of Square, and then these two agents just interact to figure out a resolution. Yeah.
Interesting. So maybe you can talk a little bit about, given your experience, what do you think makes someone good at what you do? What are the skills and the kind of attributes of the individual that would make them successful in this role?
Mm, I think there are several components. So, like, I think the key attribute would be like curiosity and willingness to learn. So, or like how to learn effectively. So like we often like engineers we joke about like can you Google effectively? I think I think it's actually a lot of truth. It's just like how like there's so many information, how can you make sense of them? And then like there are like new technologies coming up every day. How do you sift through all this information and find the ones most applicable for your use case? I think there are just so many new like methods or new models or new framework coming out, and you have to keep learning and find like a good balance between like building your own thing and also like adopting external tools. I think that's one thing, and then another thing is like mm, good at problem solving. So like like some code base maybe there are like different like so many different files or so many different framework interacting with each other, and then you have to figure out at which line like this logic breaks, and then like so it does take you some like systematic thinking to rule out what are some of the possibilities and then what might be some of the main area that this particular logic might break. So I think systematic thinking will be super helpful. And then I think like maybe lastly it would be like think about how to build something like how to build something more robust. So you would like put in a lot of logic to uh, check if this this actually has the input, like let's say the input parameters have two parameters, and then like someone might just say oh I doesn't matter whether there are two or three parameters, maybe I can just dump a dictionary in and if run it runs, if it fails it fails. But if you are thoughtful about building this checking logic and um, like thinking about type checking, then it actually like it can prevent, it will save you a lot of time from troubleshooting later on, and then um, also make it easier for the next person to maintain the code. So I think like people who can like be like pay attention to details will also help. Yeah.
Mhm. Now, so how do you stay current? So you're doing your job, and there are new things evolving and emerging, certainly from a tool and just technology in general. How do you stay current?
Yeah, so I listen to podcasts and newsletter, and like or like on LinkedIn, like I follow people who are like does all these AI weekly roundups so for big picture um, AI latest technology, and then I also read books outside of work. It's like I think the latest one I'm reading is called AI Engineering by Chip Wan, and I host a AI book club within my team, and this helped me to keep up to date on like different technologies even though I might not be directly working on them. And then like also within the company we host like every year we host two hackathons, so these are
Hmm.
like the best time for you to like pick a kind of topic you want to learn about or you want to tinker more, and then like start building. I think really through building you just learn a lot of things rapidly. Yeah.
So I get a sense, just given the evolution in terms of tools like, I'll say Chat GPT, the large language
Hmm.
models, that it is affecting some of the basic coding out
Hmm.
in the world, um, which would tend to indicate that, generalist as a role versus specialist, might be, I'll say, in conflict, meaning
Mm.
as as these tools get smarter and smarter in helping with coding, it's probably going to affect roles as generalist software engineers,
Mm.
which might then suggest that specialization is something that is, I'll say in the future, it may be here now. Um, is there a similar corollary for um, the machine learning engineer?
I think uh, like the AI demand for AI engineer is still really strong, and then like actually a lot of like we've seen a lot of backend engineers actually moving towards help building AI applications because um, like a lot of best practices at backend engineering is still are very relevant of building robust AI applications, and I don't think there's like there I think that's the definitions of the whole field are changing. I wouldn't say like before there are more separation between backend and AI engineers. I think now it's actually closer, or it's just even more is like backend engineer are expected to know AI or incorporate it as part of their tools.
Okay. So let's just take a second and have you tell us, why do you enjoy what you do?
But I think at like software engineering or like in machine learning, it's just there are always new ideas, new models to try, and like or new application use cases, and it just makes my job very exciting to keep learning. Yeah.
Cool. So let's talk a little bit about your pathway from campus to career. So history major. You don't tend to think history major, machine learning engineer. So kind of help fill in the gaps from at mid. You know, what were you thinking you wanted to go do after
Mm.
graduation? You ended up going into, I'll say, the financial services industry. What was your thought process there? And then we'll move on from there. But why don't you just start, kind of help us understand that step from history into financial services?
Yeah, so I started out my first job at Fidelity Investment, and my role was business associate in equity research, which is a rotational program within equity research. And I actually got the job through campus recruiting, so thank you for that. and and like the reason why I was interested in finance at that point is that like I had a math minor during my undergrad, and so I was looking for like an area where I can combine my quantitative skills and also like all the qualitative skills of research or reading and write analysis from history. So I think finance would be a good blend for that. So I tried it out at Fidelity, and I think like during that 2 years, I was rotated through a lot of different departments. For example, technical analysis or like big data analytics group, and then also I also did trading group and corporate governance. So I think rotating through all of them were really interesting to see like what are some of the topics or um, like projects that I was very excited to work on, and what are the ones that I feel less interested in, for example. And then it happens that the big data group I was working with, like looking at how Twitter data can has I can run sentiment analysis uh, from like Twitter data and see how they correlate with stock return results, and that was super interesting for me. And like the more I work on it, and I actually started coding in Python then, and I picked up Python back then. And the more I work with this group, the more I really want to become data scientist myself. And so that prompted me to go back to grad school to get my master's degree so that I can become a data scientist myself. and then yeah, so that's how what happened. Yeah.
It makes sense. So
Mm.
from, in essence, an interest in quantitative matters, from math, stepping into equity research and analytics makes sense. Being exposed to big data there, okay, that makes sense. Sounds like the rotational program was a positive experience for you to be able to see a few different things. And then,
Yeah, cause I wasn't like I think I wasn't. I mean, like many graduates, it's like you have so many interests. You don't know, like, like you don't know what you want to work, and then I think just go like just having opportunity to try all of them and pick what you like is actually a huge benefit. Yeah.
yep. So from Georgia Tech, you went to Visa.
Yes. Yes, that was my first job out of the master program. Yeah.
Okay. And how would you compare and contrast that role at Visa, the nature of what you were doing versus what you're doing with Block?
I think it's pretty similar. Yeah, like even though the title might be different, like the visa title is data scientist, and my role at Block is called machine learning engineer. They all handle end-to-end ML machine learning lifecycle. So they both sit within the engineering team, work very closely with engineers. So I wouldn't say there's a lot of different. Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about, I'll call it um, the non-technical aspects of your role. So, we've talked a bit about the modeling, the testing, the putting things into production from a technology perspective. What would you comment on some of the non-technical skills and attributes that you think are important in what you do?
I think at the end of the day, you are working with people, so communication skills is very important.
Hmm.
Like when I say communication skills, it might be accommodating with people with different like working style, and then be able to work together towards accomplish goals. For example, like I have someone that um, like is more independent and maybe like want to discuss different kind of code approaches like at a later stage, and then it has they have a lot of thoughts and ideas. So how do you work with this kind of people? Or like for the other, maybe another type of person can be is more collaborative and would like to work like more like do live pair programming together. So being able to work with different kind of people, and then give feedback and also take feedback constructively, I think is very important. And then in terms of communication, another thing is because my job at Blog is fully remote, so a lot of ideas are communicated through writing technical documentation. So like I think it's very valuable skill set if you can um, write documents to explain your rationale and trade-offs and present to others as like a source of document for discussion is that skill set is also highly valuable.
Hmm. Okay. And I think you had indicated the different types of roles that you work with, product managers, software engineers, I assume design folks as well.
Yeah, designs and then also a data analyst. Oh, and then like in terms of software engineers, you can breaking down into smaller groups. So for example, I'm in ML. Like there are backend engineers, and then there is the one working on like the user interface. So it can be the front end engineers, and they can be the web or like iOS mobile apps, for
Mhm.
example. Yeah.
Okay. Um, so let me transition a little bit, and from your perspective, if a student were interested in breaking in right? So their first destination from Middlebury in the working world, but they're very interested in this machine learning space. What are some of the roles that you think you would suggest they take a look at, that they consider as their first destination?
Mm. If you can get any roles at any startups or like any software companies, like I think you should just go and try it out, and then
Hmm.
like you can. I think once you're familiar with like the workflow or just like the components of an AI like application, that helps you to transition to other roles that you might be interested in. For example, like it can be right now there are a lot of evaluation work going on, and they might need someone who is like the data analyst that just monitor the monitor the model results for these like these new models. And it might seem to be like, oh, now I'm just running like analysis to look at whether it is improved by x many points. But like I think once you understand that, if later on you're more interested in building models yourself, having this skill set would help you a lot, and it's much easier to do internal like transfer than applying from other companies, I would
Yeah.
say. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, frequently students who are interested in data science, let's say, may get a little dejected because the roles that they're seeing require advanced degrees.
Hmm.
But the expectation is that there are support roles in organizations. They might be called analyst, data analyst, something like that, not data
Hmm.
scientists necessarily. That it sounds like those would be the types of roles that would be a good first destination to get in. Um,
Yeah.
sometimes,
Or
sometimes we
or
also,
if you can land a role in AI startups, then you
oh
might
yeah,
just need to do everything. So I think that would be also great experiences.
yeah, yeah. Okay, it's get in. It's kind of
Yeah, exactly.
the watchword. Um,
Yeah.
so you went and got a master's, state of the art today for data science, machine learning engineers. Do you think advanced degrees are required?
Mm, I still like, let's say most of my colleagues have either masters or PhDs.
Hmm.
I think that is because you have more specialized knowledge about statistics or like in machine learning, and it also buys you the time to like maybe do more internship or has more hands-on research projects experience. And I think um, like that would be highly valuable.
Hmm. Okay. So given everything that you've experienced, your own pathway, and your knowledge of the field today, what advice would you give to students in terms of what should they be considering doing now while they're students that might position them to get those entry level roles that we talked about earlier?
Yeah, I think like get your maths and like basic CS knowledge really good. I think it really shows says like let's say if both candidates can like talk to ChatGPT and get some analytical results, or like ChatGPT can help you write some code, right? If you have solid foundation in maths or CS, then you can critique whether this quality like like whatever like the analysis that this AI agent ran for you is good or not, or you give more specific guidance on how to generate good results. Right? I think having this foundation knowledge is super valuable in validating all these AI generated results. And then I will also say, like I was talking earlier about doing projects that interest you and get hands-on experience. It doesn't have to be internships or it doesn't have to be a real job, right? Find a project or find an area you're interested in and start building like end to end so that you can like see what are some knowledge gaps that you still haven't learned, or like what are some new framework you have to pick up. And I think and pick a topic you like so that you will enjoy building.
I like the topic you had earlier personally about being able to understand sentiment and how it affects investments.
Hmm. Yeah, so
I like
if
that
you
one.
can, yeah, so if you can build, let's say, it's not just about the like like once you start mentioning that, then you start thinking about, okay, where do I get the data, and then where like what are some solutions I should look into doing the sentiment analysis. And then after you kind of get this code to predict the sentiment of like these stocks or Twitter going, then how do you build a dashboard? Then once you have a dashboard living locally on your laptop, how do you deploy it into like a web version so that everyone can just go see it? I think like just building end to end just enables you to learn so many things, and it's very fulfilling. Yeah.
Sounds like a good example project.
Yeah.
Um, One other thing before we let you go, can you talk a little bit about a typical interview process?
Mm.
What should students expect they might encounter?
Yeah, so it's typically 2 rounds of interviews. So the first round would be some sort of basic coding algorithm questions to see if you can write code and test code. And I'm not sure if it might be changing in the future because who knows if the person in front of the camera is actually a real human, right? So then I'm still talking about like traditionally what it
Mhm.
looks like. And
Yeah,
then after if you pass the first round, then the second will be like a series of on-site interviews and like or virtual on-site for that matter.
so before I let you go, do you have any other advice that you'd like to share with students?
Um, I think just maybe be curious and just keep building, and like maybe participating with open source projects will also get you a lot of hands-on experience too. Yeah,
Great. Well, Winnie, thank you for joining us.
no problem. Have a good one.